So I'm going to open it up to everyone else in the call. If anything, I know like Latasha came in a little late, but if you have any thoughts or challenges or anything, maybe a personal room or workspace that you are picturing for yourself that you might want to run some ideas past. Marianna obviously knows so much about this, so I would love to hear what anybody has.
I have two questions. One of them is, how do you know Feng Shui? Like, I hear that, but I don't really know what that means. And then the other question is, with the kids being at home for school and me working at home, what's the best way for me to like separate and organize us so that we're all independent, but we're not getting in each other's way?
I love those questions. Thank you for asking them.
Mhm.
So first, we're going to start with Feng Shui. I'm going to keep it very short and sweet for you. It's just the placement of items, like the way things are placed in a room. Sometimes it blocks energy and it doesn't flow as naturally. So for instance, I'll give you an example. When you walk in a bedroom, having the bed being at the complete end of the bedroom facing you is really just, it's opening. It's just, it creates like a flow of energy that maybe you wouldn't experience if the bed was facing the opposite way and you have the wall of the bed facing you, if you get what I mean. So that's just the logistics behind it. But if I were to give you my perception of what Feng Shui is and how to pick up on it or how to feel it, it's just, let's pretend you have a living room and you haven't moved it maybe in a year. Everything stayed the same. It accumulated dust. Even if you wipe the dust, it just stays, nothing moved. Then there's this stagnant energy that is there. It's just, there's a lot of emotions that happen in that space, a lot of things that happen. Maybe you argued with your husband or your kids, and that's just stagnant energy. The second you move things around, you're creating a flow that's going to move energy around, and automatically it'll create a new shift in that space. And that is what Feng Shui is. And that's why I love it so much. I do it myself. Sometimes I do it temporarily and it still works. So let's just say I feel like the energy has been stagnant for a month. I will get up and move things around just for the sake of moving things around. And then a day or two will pass and I'll bring them back. But all of a sudden the energy feels different in the room. So if you want to just play around with it, I promise you won't regret it. It will feel different and it will feel great. And for your second question, there's a lot of ways to go about it, but I don't know, how old are your kids?
My oldest is 18 and my youngest is 12.
Can you tell me a bit more? Because if I were to give you advice, I do want to understand more your circumstances. So what is it exactly that is bothering you and the dynamic you guys are having? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Are they loud? Are they fighting? Are they arguing? What is it?
So we have 4 dogs. 2
I
of them
have
are
one I
upstairs.
can't handle already. So my gosh.
Yeah, 2 are upstairs, 2 are downstairs. They have their little spaces where they go. And my office is here in the loft, but the loft is open.
Mm.
So sometimes I literally move my office into my bedroom and close the door. But I don't like doing that. So I'm thinking of maybe getting like some little curtain or partition for my loft. I don't know. The kids are usually in their rooms working, but every once in a while they'll come out and work like at the kitchen table. So in my mind, I just want to go buy a whole bunch of desks and chairs and what are those, bookcases? Like, I just want to get everybody in their own little spot because I'm a classroom teacher, but I'm teaching from home. So it's like I have all this work to do and there's all this noise. And I'm just like,
Question. Are they making noise because they're watching TV or playing video games?
oh no, they're talking. They're just talking. They're girls. So they're talking.
Okay.
They're just having a good time.
I feel you. So here's my number one advice that I would give. I usually use frequency music, binaural beats. I put them on. You can get yourself some good headset, something that's going to block the noise out, because you don't want to make them stop live either.
Yeah.
don't want to block yourself out entirely, because I'm sure you enjoy having the open space, or else you would have stayed in the
Yes.
bedroom. So I feel like creating a virtual bubble to be in and to feel shielded and to feel like you can stay focused at your task. The easiest way to go about it is to put some music, not any kind of music, binaural beats. Basically, it's if I were to explain it, I'm going to try my best to do it. I'm not very good at like scientific stuff, but there's two types of frequency that are playing in each ear, and the middle frequency is what your brain will pick up on. And so what that's going to create is it's going to create like a space for your brain to stay focused on that and what you're doing, instead of focusing on your surrounding. And so that would be one of the simplest way, I guess, to go about it, considering your circumstances are a bit uh, particular. You can't just be like,
Yeah.
don't come here because I'm working until 6 p.m. and then you can go.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So I think that creating yourself a bubble would be the fastest way to get there.
You're brilliant. I just bought headsets yesterday.
Right. It's amazing.
I don't know why. I just said, I think I
Yeah.
need these. And they're the big kind that you just,
It is great. These are perfect. This is exactly what I envisioned in my head when I was giving you that tip. And I think that the universe, because you surrendered to it and you bought it without knowing why, now you know why. You were missing the key information, which is what I just told you.
thank you. How do you spell the kind of music you
Let
said?
me write it in the chat for you.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna look it up on YouTube.
Beats for focus and productivity.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm really happy you got them. What are the odds? So I hope I answered your question well. Good.
So I say there's another, and yet I can speak to binaural beats. They work very well. I actually have a playlist, and so Latasha, you'll see there's a whole bunch of stuff. So experiment and see. It's just like music, kind of. You'll find one that speaks to you and that kind of hits you in the right way, and you'll just. The good bad thing is sometimes you'll lose yourself and you'll be like, oh, 3 hours went by because you're just in
You're
it.
too focused. You're zoning in, like you will. Yeah.
So there was another question in the chat. So do you agree that people are limited in the number of quality decisions they can make in a day? For example, there's a lot of famous people and CEOs, they'll have like the same outfit every day, and it just removes, it's one less decision. Or they eat the same breakfast every morning. It's just one less thing to have to think about. Is that something you think is real or not? And how would that apply to keeping things organized?
That's a great question, and I absolutely agree. I live by it. There's a reason why you guys saw my fridge a few minutes ago and I have prep meals. It's because what I do is I decide once in the week, what am I going to eat for a whole week? And then boop, 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 boop. Great. I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend 2 hours and then I'm done. I just take it out, and I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat the whole day. I already know the whole week, actually, now that I think about it. So that's a huge amount of decisions that's being taken away from my shoulders. And I can use that decision fatigue, I guess, to, I can avoid, that decision fatigue, so I can focus on actually making wise decisions for my business and what really matters. Another way this can apply is, again, the example I gave you guys earlier with the closet. My closet, I filter it every week, every 2 weeks, and I only keep things that fit me, things that I know I wear, things that I know I will wear eventually, and everything else. I have this luggage, I put it in, and if by the end of the month it's still there and I didn't change my mind, I give it away to people. That's a really fast way to eliminate decision fatigue without limiting yourself to wearing the same shirt every day, because then you're limiting your options by a lot. You're reducing, instead of having 40 shirts, then you're left with maybe 10. And then you usually have your favorites, maybe from these. You'll pick some and you'll know they look great with this pair of pants, and it's just, you can get dressed really, really easily that way. A little tip that I can give you guys, if you want to get into the gist of it, get into the habit of it, put all of your hangers on one side, and every time you pick a shirt or you pick up something, Put it back, but twist it the other side. At the end of the month, or after 2 months, if you don't want to make it too short, notice how many of these are still unturned. This will give you a clear visual of what you aren't really using. And then if you take them off, you can put them like I do in luggage for a month. And then if you completely forgot about them, then that just basically means you won't really wear them or use them.
I think that's a great technique. I've never heard of the hangers thing. Actually, I can't remember her name, but there's a stylist that I heard on a podcast, and she suggested where you just, and I actually did this with my wife. It was really great. I recommend everyone do this. Is you just take an evening and you each put everything you have on so that the other person can see you. And then when you wear it, you talk about like, how does it feel? Like, does it actually like physically feel good on you? And also, does it make you feel good? Like, do you like it? And it was really fascinating because there's certain things that you see the other person wear them, and you say, oh, I love you in that. Why don't you wear it more? And you go, oh, I didn't know you like this, you know, or the opposite. You're like, I don't like this, but you like it. And you're like, I don't like it. And you're like, oh, I thought you did. And it's a really great way to check in with your partner, but it's also a great way to, like, for instance, I never realized that, because I'm an outdoorsy person, so I got a lot of like blends and things like polyester blend, cotton blends, you know, thing. And I was like, I don't really like the way they feel.
Mm.
They're functional, but they're not very nice. They don't feel good. And I didn't know that until I did that exercise. So the reason I brought that up is I'm curious if you have exercises like that that you do with people, especially for their workspaces, such as you talked about moving things around to increase the energy. So if you walk into a place and it's set up a certain way, maybe it's not so much clutter, but it just isn't set up in a way that gives good flow or good creativity in the space. Is that something that you do? You have them actually rearrange the office, or do you kind of just leave all the big things where they are and just kind of deal with, you know, the paperwork and the organization?
I do if they give me the space to do it. And again, the only reason why I'm capable of doing it is because as much as I'm very organized, I also have a diploma in interior decoration. So I can give you not only the blend of the Feng Shui, but the visually pleasing aspect of having your space look more aesthetic, I would say. So I guess I do, but again, I wait for the permission, or I wait to have the okay from my clients.
So that brings to mind, I wanted to ask you earlier and I forgot. What background or training, you just mentioned your degree, what have you gone through, and what have you studied, and what have you brought together to place you kind of uniquely in this space so that you can offer this to people and kind of read them? Like, I was really impressed with how you're able to kind of like see Latasha's space and give her something that was so spot on. So there's kind of obviously this intangible ability to connect with people, but what background and kind of training do you bring?
I love that question. I often get that actually. To keep it very basic, I'm still surprised how it all came about, but I actually started in business. And so I have a background in business, and that I didn't know I would end up having my own business. I always felt like I would, but that definitely helped, because now that I'm doing, offices and everything, having a clear understanding of like how a business works is a great background to have when it comes to organizing, people's files in terms of priority, especially CEOs and entrepreneurs. I also have a background in finance when it comes to investments, mutual funds, etc. This also helps when it comes to taxes, when it comes to organizing these whole financial aspects of an office area or an office space or a home. After that, what did I do? I did interior decoration certificate as well. So I got the whole visual, and I learned a lot about how to design a space to make it look very aesthetically pleasing to the eye and just harmonious overall. So I have a background in that. And the last one I did was actually to get a degree in organization. This is where I learned all the techniques. This is where I understood calamity and how to understand the worth of an object and how to make the decision behind, is it worth it or is it not valuable, and what do we do with that? So this is all my background, but most of my experience in organizing really came from personal experience. Actually, I used to be a very chaotic teenager. Believe it or not, my room was the messiest thing anyone could ever see. I used to find myself in clutter. I never thought I would be an organizer. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. And at one point, I remember I was in college and I wasn't in college. That's not true. I was not in college. I was actually younger. I was 14 or 15, and I had so much anxiety. I don't know if it was because of my finals or I was just going through a breakup, or I don't know what the hell was going on. I wasn't feeling good. And the first reflex I had was, I want to feel in control. So I just got up and I started organizing everything. I reorganized my drawers. I reorganized my closet. I reorganized every single paper I had that I had kept for years. And I purged and I purged and I purged. And after hours of work, I remember I started in the morning and it was nighttime. I sat down on my bed and I looked around. And I was like, whoa, that's what being organized feels like? That feels great. The next morning I got up, went, and I knew exactly where my clothes were, where my socks were, where everything was. And since, I never looked back, and I apply that every day in my life.
That's a great story. And I think we all have experienced something similar at some point in our lives. I wanted to ask if you've ever found, because I've known people like they're a certain way, like at work, and they're different at home, or vice versa. So have you ever found people that maybe they're really organized at the office and their home is chaos, or vice versa? How do you deal with them having kind of inconsistencies in different spaces as far as organization and decluttering, cleanliness, that type of thing?
It's a really good question, but most often than not, when I see people do that, it's because they're prioritizing something over the other, and they're seeing value in being organized at work and not at home. Now, my job is to show them the value in, hey, you can also have a really functional home. Did you know that you can make your kitchen so functional that you save time when you cook a meal, that when your kids help you in the house, they can put things back exactly where they are, and that it's going to give them a sense of control and clarity because there's a system in place and everyone's agreeing on it. So it's just a matter of really getting them to understand that there is a value in the opposite place where they're not really valuing organization as much. Your brain will always do something when they see the benefit behind it, right?
And again, you mentioned this a few times. I think it's really important for people to have that takeaway of, like I mentioned, it's like the dividend. If you take some time now, you organize everything, then later you're not, because not only is, like you mentioned, it's taking the time and the energy and the money. If you lose something, and I remember my dad one time, he found, I forget, it was like a wrench or something. It'd fallen somewhere, and he had to go buy a new one. And then, months later, he finds the old one. Well, now what do I do? I have two. Why do I have two? I don't need them. If you get things organized, it saves you all of that stuff. And I'm really happy to hear you talk about the value. So I'm curious if you have like set priorities or values, like lists that you like to present to people and say, keep these things in mind, or does it differ to each person?
It differs to each person, and I'm never going to be the person to tell them what is more important than the other. It's really just me guiding them through, them seeing what is valuable and what isn't. And we all have a different priority set. Like, for instance, let's just say we are organizing a kitchen again. Let's just go with that example. We're prioritizing a kitchen, And the person who's organizing their space really isn't much of a cooker. They really love, drinking smoothies. They're usually on the go. Why would I encourage them to have their pots and their pans and their stuff close to them when I can prioritize maybe having their shake bottles close and their mixer maybe accessible, and have them have all sorts of protein shakes and protein powder in the cabinets nearest to them. Each person really is different, and they're all going to have a different set of priorities and a different set of system in place to make their space functional. And I think that it all boils down to me sitting with the client and really understanding what their lifestyle is like and what is important to them, and how can we make their space work for them, not the other way around. Yeah.
So I'm going to go into that a little further.
Yeah.
What is your onboarding process when you get a new client? How do you spend that time with them? How do you get to know those things?
I ask as many questions as I can. I literally ask them everything. Like, what do you do in a day? What is working for you in that space? What isn't working for you in that space? Did you ever try to organize it yourself? You did. Okay. What didn't work in that system? How long did it last? And I ask and I ask and I ask until I get so clear about what the pain point is and how I can resolve the issue, that I have a clear system tailored to them. And I think that is my process.
So I'm going to make sure I open it back up and see if anybody else has any other thoughts or questions that you might be able to help them with. And if not, I have other things, but I don't want to hog the mic, so to speak.
I think Latasha has a question. Hi.
I just want to say it's so beautiful how all of your experiences and your educational degrees have just come together and created this wonderful business for you. I think that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for saying that, Latasha. I appreciate it. And I think I have the same perception on how amazing your universe is, because like you ended up buying headphones yesterday, not knowing why, and here we are today. You have your answer. So for me, I just find it as just the beauty of the universe. I find it so fascinating, you know.
It's awesome. I just think about finance and interior design and organization. It would seem like those things don't go together. But then when you talk about your experience, it's like, oh, it makes perfect sense.
And you know what, Latasha, I grew up really feeling confused about it. Like I was like, well, I did finance and I have background in business, but like I'm right now doing interior decoration. Nothing tied, nothing was like, it didn't make sense. And the second I went on, remember I mentioned in the beginning, you weren't there actually, but I was saying that I was on a self-discovery journey and I was living in Hawaii for a few months. And that really sort of like, then I hired Coach Amanda, then I kind of like transitioned into that. It's only then that I was like, oh, okay. It all boils down to one thing. We can actually blend it all and make it one thing. And I think that's what deep down I really wanted, because I felt scattered to have all these different backgrounds and not know really where it was going.
Who's like your perfect client? Do you work for like corporations or small business owners? Like who's your group?
I have two ideal clients. Obviously, I'm always open for everyone. Like my goal is really to help people and make them experience what it's like to be in an organized space. But the ideal client for me at the moment, based off of the transition my business took, I would say definitely big corporations, because if I'm working with big corporations, then I can help a ton of employees to just feel better at work. Because if you think about it, if you can feel great at home and be in an organized space, imagine how much more efficient you'll be if your office space is organized and if you have a clear understanding of, your emails and your cabinets and everything. You just never look for anything, you know where everything is.
Yeah, people need that right now.
Oh my gosh, so much, especially right now because of COVID. Because what happened was in the past, people who weren't organized and who were very cluttered would get away with this because they would go to the office, and sometimes it's a communal space, so didn't really have a desk, so they always had a clear desk to work from
Yeah.
every single time. And now these people have been accumulating clutter for a whole year, almost 2 years. And so it makes a huge difference. And these CEOs of these CEOs, um, these big corporations, they don't know what conditions their workers are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. They don't know what distractions they have and how it affects their performance at the end of the year. They're not aware of that, but they're starting to see it. And this is where what I do really comes in handy.
That's cool. I can see you going into an office and like completely changing everything around and saying, okay, she has to sit over there now, and this is gonna go this way. I could just see how that'd be so cool. They walk in the next day and they're like,
Oh my God, what happened?
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, definitely. Or just seeing the transformation of just walking in a corporate setting and then having all these offices have like a bunch of sticky notes and like boards filled with stuff and just have it all kind of like gone. Now it's
Clean.
art, it's inspiration, it's quotes, and everything, scribbly, scribbly, it's all digital. And it just feels,
Yeah.
you know.
Plants, flowers.
Yeah, these are all little things, and it's actually one thing I'm glad we're talking about it because there's other ways to be more efficient, and it sounds stupid like that when we say it, but you know, an organized, tidy space isn't enough. You have to add a touch, something that's going to make you inspired. So like if you have this like beautiful salt lamp on the side, maybe a few crystals or whatever inspires you or brings joy to you, add it. If you have a favorite pencil, buy that pencil and use it every day. A photo of you and your kids and your husband and anything that sparks joy and inspires you is an addition to that space, and it's going to make it more harmonious, and I value that a lot as well.
Harmony.
Yes. That's actually where it originated from. The word harmony, believe it or not, began, the reason why I called my business Harmony is because of the feeling that I want people to experience when they enter a space that was touched by me. If I give my little spark to it, I want them to feel in harmony. That's why I called my brand Harmony.
Ooh.
Wanted to ask, you were talking there a little bit about the reaction people have, and I'm just picturing like the reveal at the end of like a Queer Eye episode or any one of the home makeover shows where people, they have the space, they leave, and they come back and go, oh my God. So I guess a two-part question is, do you watch a lot of those type of home and space or even people makeover shows, and do you get any ideas or anything from things like that? And do you often have those types of reactions from your clients?
I do, and I love them. And there's a reason why I do what I do, because not even just the clients, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their partner, their family members, they walk into their space, they're like, whoa, that is a whole different place. What the hell is going on? And they're so proud of them. And then they get excited and they get excited for them. And it's just a whole vibe of positivity because, believe it or not, when you're not organized, you're not the only one experiencing that. Like your husband, your kids, everyone else is feeling it along with you. So when they make the decision to really get clear on that and tidy their space, everyone's happy along with them. And it's usually very joyful and beautiful to look at, especially when they're walking in and they're like, that's a whole different place. I don't even recognize my office anymore. I love that. I love, love, love it. And yes, I do get inspiration from a lot of shows. I myself want to have one eventually down the line. It is a project of mine and my business to have a Netflix show. I get inspiration from Marie Kondo a lot. And my favorite thing is Get Organized. If you guys haven't watched that Netflix show, go check it out. They're amazing. They use the color of the rainbow to organize their things. And so it's really well an aesthetic, really well done and aesthetic, and it's just so inspirational to look at for me.
I haven't heard of the Get Organized show, but I was just thinking like, oh, you should have a show. It would be so perfect. So I'll have to check that out. So I wanted to see if you have any resources or things. I know you mentioned the I forgot the name of it, the Pomodoro technique and a couple other things. So if you were to give someone, say, your top 2 or 3 takeaways, like oh, go check this out or go watch the show, so that people could have some either examples or some inspiration, what would you say those would be?
The first thing I would say, because you guys already know I value purging a lot as a part of organizing and tidying, there's a show on Netflix called, I believe it's called Less is More, or I think it's called The Minimalist. I'm not too sure, but if you write The Minimalist, you will fall on it. It's 2 men who will really talk about, you know, the advantages of being minimalistic. And in that show, there's going to be so many tips on how to purge. And that's definitely a great resource. I make all my clients watch it. And when they watch it, even the most resistant client I have, they watch it and they go, oh my God, take it out. I don't need it anymore. It's so well done and explained, and the psychology behind, you know, importance to not have clutter, that when they watch that, they understand the concept behind it. So that is definitely one resource I recommend. Pomodoro technique, I swear by it day and night to anyone who's trying to be more organized. And recently, I'll give you another tip as well. It might be a bit challenging, but you'll understand a bit more where I'm coming from. When you do your to-do list, I'll give you guys an example. What you do is not draft just what you have to do in your day. Because if you do that, then you'll end up doing things that aren't really important, and you're kind of like taking care of the filler tasks that aren't really as complex, but they're not moving the needle forward. So I can give you a quick tip that I learned along the way that I apply myself every single day now to feel less overwhelmed. Here's how to draft a really successful to-do list. So the first thing you do, I don't know if we have time before I get into it. Do we have time? Okay, good. Just in case. The first thing you'll do is you're going to write down everything that's coming to your mind. Like, oh, I need to take care of that, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do that. Draft it all and leave an open check mark next to it. Okay? Once that's done, I want you to pick 3 highlighters and go according to these colors. I usually go, that's why I have the highlighters. I go with green, red, and yellow. And as you guys can tell, there's a reason behind that system, right? When we're thinking of green, we think of something that might not be as urgent. Something that's more pink is like, ooh, got to take care of that now. And a yellow is more like moderate. And these 3 colors represent your importance in terms of tasks. Remember, when we set values to each item, we also need to set value to each task. And there's a way to implement the Pomodoro technique in there as well, and I do. So once you have these 3 colors, I want you to just fill up the little check mark with the color you associate to each task. Once that's done, you'd redraft next to it if you can, or if you don't have to, but I usually do that just to get a clearer visual. You go green first, yellow second, and red at the bottom. And you, from the green, select the 3 first that you feel are the most important. By the end of the day, if you get these done, you will be proud of you and you will feel like you moved the needle forward. And then whatever comes next, it's extra. There's a statistic that says that on average, people are capable of taking care of maybe 3 to 5 tasks. Anything else is literally just overwhelming you because you probably won't be able to take care of it. Another good tip would be when you write your task, try to write them in action steps that are easy. Like instead of saying, take care of X thing. No, I'll give you a more specific example because that's too general. Let's say instead of saying, post X, Y, and Z video, Well, if you haven't done the shooting, if you haven't done if you haven't prepared the character and the idea and the visual, split that into multiple steps and then insert that into your day task instead of having something general that feels overwhelming and you don't know where to begin. So be very specific and action oriented, something that you know if you read, you'll know what to do. And now the Pomodoro technique can be applied in there as well, because once you have your first 3 greens, then you can just say, I estimate that the first task will take maybe 3 Pomodoros. And then you can set your alarm, be like, let me get started. 25 minutes, start. Great. You can put your binaural beats, Latasha, beats, and just focus for 25 minutes until the alarm rings. And then you're good to go. You're on a roll. Before you know it, you've tackled down your first 3 tasks and you're proud of yourself. So that's just one tip. If you want more, you guys are in luck, because it just so happens that recently my business partner and I are going to be hosting a webinar on May 6th, and we will be basically giving away 7 productivity tips. It's going to be 45 minutes. So come ready, bringing a notepad, and we're going to be sharing a lot of things that are going to help you to save at least 1 hour every day. That totals up to 6.25 weeks a year in lost productivity. So you guys want to be there. I promise you won't regret it. I'll have the link if you can have an email with, email of people who could be interested. I'll send that to you guys. I want as many people there because we are going to be providing a lot of value.
I'm so glad that you talked about that, because we're going to be wrapping up here in a moment. But first, I want to ask if anyone else has any other questions. If so, feel free to jump in a moment. But yeah, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to spotlight anything. So please send me the information. And next week, when we send out the recording, I'll put everything in there so people can get that. And if anyone's listening to this, we'll have all the contact information for Marianna as well. So other than that, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, or someone wanted to find more information about you, follow you on social media, where would you want to direct people so that they could reach out, make an appointment, see what you're doing, read up on you, whatever it might be?
The first place is always my website. I spent so much time designing it, so I want everybody there. But also because on the website, there's a link to my social media. There's a link to booking a free consultation with me. There's a link to, all kinds of places that you can reach out, I guess. So the website is www.harmonyofficial.net. And over there, you guys will get a clear understanding of who I am, what I do as well. And if you guys want some organizing tips, you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's harmonyofficial101. And I'll follow you back, and you guys will get a lot of value as well in there, because I share tips and tricks on how to be organized.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And as I said, I'll put all the contact information for you. And once I get the webinar information, I'll throw that in the show notes too, so everyone can get that. And if anyone is listening, or if this was shared with you, a couple things I'll say on our end. So we do these talks live on the first and third Thursday of every month. Occasionally we have additional talk like we are tonight, but that's the general schedule. And I'm excited to announce that we are going to be putting out all these calls as a podcast this year. And this is our 3rd year. So you're going to hear a bunch of the older episodes coming out, and then eventually we'll catch up. But we're always looking for new guest experts who can come on, like Marianna did tonight, to talk about what they do. And this is a great way to get on the call live. As you heard, Latasha was able to get some of her questions answered because she was here live on the call. So it's a great way to connect with the expert one-on-one. But even if you can't do that, you can get on our mailing list, and we'll share all the show notes. So you'll get the contact information, you'll get the question and answers, and you'll get a recording. And as I mentioned, we will be putting these out both video format on YouTube, so you can watch the presentation, as well as eventually the podcast. I believe we're going to launch in May, which would be cool. So does anyone else have any questions or thoughts before we wrap up the show for tonight? I wasn't sure if Latasha was going to jump in again. So Marianna, I want to thank you again so much for being here. I learned a lot, and I did have one final question I wanted to ask you. So put you on the spot here. What is the most challenging area of your space for you to keep decluttered and organized?
I would say that is a good question. I would say this one over there. It's a closet where I keep like when we walk in, we have our jackets and we have our boots and we have our stuff in there. I feel like I don't declutter it as often, but I do see a lot of value because the second I do, which I do roughly around every month once, I just the second it opens, I'm like, oh, it feels so great. But that is the only place I can truly say, in all honesty, I find a bit more challenging. Not because it's complex, because it's not. It's just I tend to kind of like leave it on the side and focus on the other areas. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll ask you to stay on after we finish the call here in a moment, but I'd just like to thank everyone who joined us live on the call. And again, we are here the first and third Thursday of every month live. And if you'd like to join our mailing list, you'll find out who upcoming speakers are. And as always, this is a free call and open to everyone. So please spread the awareness, let other people know. And if they would like to come on as a speaker, we would love to meet them. So thank you so much for being here, Marianna. I hope people can reach out to you and find some decluttering in their life by tapping your resources, because I learned a lot, but I also saw that you were able to both connect with the person as well as kind of solve the problem in the space. I think that's very valuable. So thank you again, and good night, everyone.